You get 7 days and 7 nights of rain. Not cool. Not cool. Good? Okay. I'll start off first with just a congratulations to the Patriots. They beat us thoroughly on Sunday, outplayed us in every way. But I got a lot of respect for Bill Belichick and their whole staff, their coordinators. Josh McDaniels, their offensive coordinator, I know real well. He's one of the best in the league. He'll be a head coach again at some point. Brian Flores is their defensive coordinator. He's an excellent coach. He'll be a head coach at some point and very good. And they have a special teams coach named Joe Judge who's excellent at what he does. He'll probably be head coach at some point. So they have an excellent staff, great players, obviously, and they beat us pretty thoroughly on Sunday. I also want to really thank Mr. Kraft and Jonathan Kraft for honoring McKenna Meebane before the game. I just thought that was a really classy gesture by them. It was appreciated by everyone in our organization, and I think even though we're opponents on the field and competitors on the field, there's mutual respect amongst clubs, and I just thought that was a great demonstration for that, so I wanted to mention that. But back to us, the last game of the year kind of clouds the type of year we had, so we don't feel great right now, but we have to look at the whole body of work. We went 12-4, tied for the best record in the AFC, but it's going to take us a little time to get over this last game. I do want to mention, too, just about our ownership, Dean, John, and AG. They've made significant investments in this team. They give us the resources we need to compete at a high level. And it's not always just financial. Some of it's financial with retention of coaches, retention of support staff, adding support staff, anything we may need in the building, travel-wise, anything that can help us win. Their answer is always yes. But it's even more than financial. It's about their time, about their advice, their support for all of us. And it's critical for a team, a winning team, to have that, and we have that here. And I think we preach all the time with our players and coaches. We talk about faith, family, and football, and we talk about it in that order. And when you're a family-run organization, it's a lot easier to spread that message to everybody down below. And we see it on a daily basis, and that's really important as far as what we're trying to build here. As far as players and coaches and how the year went, we made some significant steps this year. I think 2017 was more about building a culture, building a physical, mental toughness, getting that grit resolved, and I think we did that 2 years ago. And then this year, what I really saw was the players really taking ownership of that in the locker room and really taking Anthony's vision, his voice, and really policing that in the locker room, creating that accountability between player to player. And that was big this year. I saw a lot of leaders, not just one or two guys. I saw some young players step up as leaders, and a lot of players buy into what we're trying to do. So that was great to see that improvement. This is not a one-step process. This is a multi-step process to where we want to go, but we took some significant steps this year. And then, obviously, my main focus is the product on the field, but even me, I couldn't help but see the buzz that was building throughout the season with this team, even in the building and outside the building. And it really saw it in December, to win at Pittsburgh, win at Kansas City, national TV games. And then our home game versus Baltimore, I thought the atmosphere was awesome. That was great. That's the way it should be. And I think a lot of that was people getting excited about what they're seeing on the field. Our playoff game against Baltimore, Josh told me that 1.1 million people, or 1.1 million households in Los Angeles watched that game. He added another 350,000 households in San Diego. It's 1.5 million people watching us play in the playoffs. And I think for our fans, no matter if you're from Los Angeles, San Diego, or anywhere across the country, after listening to 2 years, 3 years, 4 years of relocation talk, I think it was great for people to kind of sit back and really enjoy the players on the field, this team on the field, and enjoy football again. Put the focus back on the field, and this was a team that we could do that. I'm biased, but I think it's an easy team to root for. They're tough, they're blue collar, but they play an exciting brand of football, and there's a little bit of personality in there too. And I think if you watch Backstage Chargers, right, you could see some of our players without their helmet on and get to know them a little bit as players. And then obviously the games were fun. That's what we're here to do. We're here to win, and I'm proud of the players and the coaches, a good group of guys. Just didn't quite get to where we want to go, and that's, obviously very disappointing. We had a really good football team, but we played a better football team in New England at New England, and we got to figure out how to get past that hump next year. But before that, you have to start at the bottom of the mountain and work your way back up again. So with that, kind of open up to any questions you want to ask.
Tom, you mentioned the loss to Patriots kind of clouds the overall success that you had. Does it also, though, provide focus in terms of how you lost and where you want to be the following season?
Yeah, so we will sit down and analyze this game. Even Coach said it's hard to do right after the game for this one, but we'll certainly analyze and see where we could have done better. But we have to look at the whole body of work, too. It's just hard to do right now, but you can look at all 16 games, both playoff games. But, yeah, there's certainly some things in this game we got to look at and just see what happened. When I was watching the tape, that just didn't seem like that was us out there on both sides of the ball. And a lot of that had to do with New England. But we just didn't play nearly well enough.
Is that kind of tough to kind of analyze because it wasn't you guys out there and kind of figuring out what went wrong? Is that tough to do?
Actually, it's not. So we've got videotape to watch, so we can watch it over and over and over and see what they did, see what we did, what worked, what didn't work. So no, it's tough to do emotionally right now. But when we actually get down to it, now we'll try and figure out where it was and get better. And look at all the things we did really well this year. I mean, to go 12-4 with the type of schedule we had was not easy. So there were a lot of good things this year, but we got to look at the good and the bad, and that's what the offseason is all about, is really self-scouting yourself.
Tom, what's your evaluation of how Hunter played, and then how do you move forward from him being able to get off the field this early?
Yeah, I think he started the first play of the game, and he was blocking, and he looked good. He had a great block the first play of the game. He ended up playing, I think, 13 or 14 snaps. Not bad. Not bad. I'm glad he got a chance to get back on the field. He did so much work to get there. So that was great, and this will just help him into the off-season program. He does need to get some rest like everybody else. When you're rehabbing during the season, it's a full-time job. But I just think maybe even for his mental, it's good to know that he was back out in the field, blocking, hit the ground a couple times, ran some routes. And obviously he was not 100% there yet, but certainly good enough to play, but it's nice to have him out there again.
Do you think that helps with the jitters? If he would have waited until next year, oh my God, the first time I get hit, have to block, stuff like that. Do you think that kind of took that?
You'd have to ask Hunter. I mean, he's done this since probably grade school playing football. So, but yeah, you'd have to ask Hunter that. But I know it's nice to have him back out there again.
What do you think of the year that Phillip Rivers had and the leadership he provided all the way through?
Tremendous. I mean, I can't rank his years, but I know he had an excellent year this year, all the way through. And a lot of that has to do with him, and a lot of that has to do with the team that's built around him, both offense and defense. But no, he's forever our leader, and he had a tremendous year this year.
Tom, in terms of Phillip's contract, he has 1 year left now. Is it important to start that process in terms of contract negotiations so he's going to be around long term?
Well, I can tell you he's not going anywhere, so he's going to be here. But yeah, we'll talk at the right point as far as the moves we need to make in the offseason, the resources we have, and kind of see how it all fits in. But yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Tom, when you look at the roster and the coaching staff, what are some of the biggest needs that stand out to you?
Well, that's what we're going to use the next probably 30 days and try and work on. We need, and especially me, I need some space from the last game until we start making big decisions. I mean, I have some thoughts in my head, but I need some time, at least a couple of weeks, and then we'll sit down and really start to really plan out the off season. But I just don't want to do that right now. I need some time.
How do you assess Forrest Lamp's year? Obviously he was still kind of battling through coming off the ACL and knee surgery. And then what do you hope for him next season?
Well, he'll be right in the mix next season, so I know that. But as far as evaluating him, it's really just watching him practice this year. So at least we know he's back on the field, he's healthy, and he's playing. So that's good to know. And then, he'll have the full offseason this year, which he didn't have last year. Last year he was rehabbing during the offseason program. So full offseason program, kind of like the way Mike Williams got this past year. And then full training camp, and away we go.
You say right in the mix, he'll be competing for a job at right guard. Is that
Sure.
how you see it?
Well, yeah. A guard position, who knows?
What do you attribute to him not being able to get on the field this year?
I think our offensive line did a pretty good job. It's funny. for 13 weeks, I thought they did an excellent job. And then the last 3 weeks of the regular season, the standard that they had created the first 13 weeks wasn't quite there for whatever reason. We have to try and look at that and see where it is. And then the Baltimore playoff game, they played outstanding in that game against probably one of the best fronts in the league. And then New England, none of us played well. So that's what we have to look at. I mean, the big body of work was, our average yards per carry was one of the tops in the league, and it wasn't just Melvin Gordon. It was Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson, Detrez Newsome. So we ran the ball well. A lot of explosive run plays, one of the top teams in the league with that. Top 10 in least sacks allowed. So there was a lot of good things there. What we need to look at is those last 3 games wasn't quite to those standards that they had started the first 13. So you need to take a look at that.
What do you think, I guess, does anything stand out to you early on things that you could do to fix the offensive line?
Well, early we didn't have to fix anything. It was pretty good.
I guess, no, in
Yeah.
your evaluation process.
To fix the offense, I don't think it's broken, so I think we're in good shape. We just got to figure out, what was not going as planned those last 3 games. But again, we came back against Baltimore and did a great job. So it certainly isn't broken. And those guys carried us for a while. I mean, we were running the ball very well, pass protecting well, so happy with it.
Derwin had the breakout year, but how would you assess the draft class as a whole?
As a whole, I mean, other than Kaiser, because Kaiser got hurt pretty early, although Kaiser White had earned a starting job, and then he got hurt. But the rest of the guys, other than Dylan, I guess, because Dylan didn't contribute as much, they all contributed in a role. And obviously, Derwin's role was a huge contribution. You don't necessarily expect a rookie to come in even the first round and play that much of a difference, either on either side of the ball, but he made a huge difference. But Chetna Nwosu, Justin Jones, those 2 guys played really significant roles for us in the defense, and they'll get more as we move forward. Really happy with those guys. Justin Jackson, when his number was called, was ready to go. So what we saw was those guys, it wasn't too big for them. They took on a role. It will get bigger as we move on. And I'm proud of the group as a whole. A lot of times, and I've seen it on other teams, I've seen it here, sometimes the rookies hit a wall around Thanksgiving. We play more games than they do in college. It's much more intense. And our guys never hit the rookie wall. So I think it's a credit to them. It's a credit to John Lott, our strength and conditioning coach, Arthur Hightower, who works with the players, with the director of player engagement, Herb Martin is our psychologist, to kind of keep these guys, give them the resources they need. The rookie year is very difficult for them. And they really never hit the wall. They helped us all the way through, including in playoff games. So, and then this offseason is always big for a rookie going into their second year.
At the beginning, you talked about guys that stepped up as leaders. Do you believe that Derwin, towards the end of the season, stepped up as a leader of the defense?
Yeah, and probably even a little bit earlier than the end of the season, and he has some leadership qualities. It's hard for a player at his age, when they come into an NFL locker room with much older players, to lead. But he's very mature for his age, and you can see that leadership come out. And, we had a lot of leaders, but he was one of them.
Derwin showed plenty of versatility at Florida State with what they were able to do with him on defense, but with what Gus was able to do in the different spots, did it even surprise you guys how many places you could put him?
Early on, I'd say yes, because there's a lot of mental work that goes into playing multiple positions in this league, and especially for younger players, it's difficult. And he took on a lot. Gus gave him a lot of responsibilities early on, and he really did handle it very well.
It seemed you guys had a lot of injuries at linebacker. Can you just kind of assess that position, and is that something you're going to be looking to fortify?
Sure. The good news is overall, our injuries this year were well below the average. That was the good news. The bad news is the guys that got hurt really was that one position group got hit hard. Between Kaiser getting hurt early, Denzel Perryman, Jatavis Brown, we didn't quite recover from that. As far as having other players step up, we had some players step up on special teams, but even like Kyle Emanuel did a great job, but he's not an inside linebacker by trade. So we had to do some different things in different games, which probably use some more defensive backs. And Gus did a great job. But yeah, that position group, it just hurt. We got some guys hurt there, but it's be one group that we need to focus on pretty heavily in the offseason.
Tom, where's Jason Verrett at in his recovery, and is it possible that he comes back? I believe he's going to be unrestricted.
He'll be a free agent, yeah, certainly a possibility. as far as I know, and he's still around here a good amount, but he is on track for where he is with that injury. That's a little bit of a longer injury, the Achilles tendon. Good news is, especially nowadays, even with defensive backs, they can come back from that and come back to where they were before, so that's good news. Yeah, it's certainly a possibility.
How about for Adrian Phillips? He had a big year, and he's looking for security. He's a free agent also. You think he could be here for next year?
Yeah, these are the discussions we'll have pretty heavy moving forward in the next couple weeks. And yeah, he has been a great story for what he's done. The way he came into the league, I'm sure most of you know the story. I mean, we brought him to rookie minicamp on a tryout, not even to sign him. And he looked good, but it wasn't like, all right, we got to sign him right away. Sent him home, and then we signed him 4 weeks later, and he wins the job. And then, I mean, I literally released him eight times. I mean, 8 times he came into my office to let him go, and he always handled it professionally. And he just kept working and working and working. And to see a player, finally earn a job on the 53, then earn a role, then earn a starting role, and then be an excellent special teamer and then a huge part of our defense and go to the Pro Bowl. I mean, it's a story that, you can tell other kids for years and years and years what he's done. He was kind of the heart and soul of the defense too. So anybody that's watched us build our team over the last couple of years, I think you can see we like to draft, develop, re-sign our own, and then be very selective in free agency with the Mike Pouncey's, Russell Okuns, Casey Haywards, and others. But we like to retain our own. I think we have a good core here. Now, is it realistic to keep every single player? It's not. But these are discussions we'll have in the next couple of weeks as far as, hey, these are the resources we have under the cap, and this is how it's going to fit. But yeah, he was the heart and soul of the defense this year, no doubt.
How tough is the evaluation with Jason based on his injury history, but then the talent that he knows there, because you've seen it?
Yeah, it's there's risk involved and there's high reward involved. The one thing is we know him very well as a person. But yeah, there's a lot of factors. So he's had a rough last couple of years. And even this past year, even though he wasn't playing, he was still a pretty big part of the defense, just being around, being a leader. So yeah, they're difficult. They are.
One would be Antonio, who mentioned that he wants to come back and play. Would you start that conversation earlier? It sounds like maybe.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, he already stopped up. We talked on Monday. I know he talked to Coach Monday. I'll say the same thing now as I said last year at this time. He can still play. Like, he still has snaps in his body. He still has catches. He still has touchdowns in his body. And I'll be forever grateful. I mean, obviously last year we decided to move on from him. Situation changes. And we go back to Antonio, and he could have said, you know what, I'm going to play, but I'll go play for somebody else. He could have said, he could have come back to play for us and be bitter about it, and he was neither. He was an awesome teammate, great to be around, and I'll never forget that. I mean, I'll be forever grateful for that. But for next year, you ask me now, my heart says, yeah, he'll be back next year. But, you put the GM hat on, you have to look at, what's the role, what are our resources under the cap, and how everything fits together. But we'll come to that conclusion a lot quicker than we did last year. And, we've got some thought to do on that one. So the short answer is I don't know yet, but that's the long answer before that.
Is it realistic to keep 3 tight ends on the roster with Antonio, Virgil, and Hunter? Or I should say feasible?
We can usually figure out a way to do almost everything. So, but we got to talk about it. If it wasn't realistic at all, I'd probably say can't do it. But, we'll figure out a way.
Melvin Gordon, 5th year, the rookie deal. Do you start that conversation going as well, or how do you look at that?
I think it's something we'll definitely look at. I mean, he's a huge part of our offense. He's a warrior for us. He does all the little things to be a great player that you don't see in this room, but all the little things you need. And I love having him, and we're happy we have him. And yeah, this is probably something we'll look at in the offseason. We have a lot of, the good thing is we have a lot of good young talent, and trying to retain that core moving forward is it takes some work. But yeah, certainly.
Talk about re-signing your own. How do you balance Tyrell Williams' desire to be a number 1 wide receiver, but also retaining what he brought?
Yeah, those are the tough questions to have. I mean, he has earned his next contract. Certainly, he came in here, college free agent, small school, Western Oregon, and since their school was on the quarter system, he was not at any of our off-season work that first year. He just by league rule wasn't allowed to because he was finishing school. So he missed our whole off-season program, which for a college free agent is usually the kiss of death. I mean, it's hard to make the team that way. And he did some phone calls and some FaceTime with Fred Gray. I think it was with Fred Graves, our receivers coach then, about, learning the playbook. When he came back for training camp, he knew our playbook inside and out, which for a young guy who hadn't been here was really impressive. And actually, that was like the first time we're like, this kid, he may have something to him. I mean, that was really impressive he could do that. And then he just got progressively better and better and better. And then this past year, his game had already been a really solid game, and he kind of took it to the next level this year. And yeah, he's earned his second contract. But those are the discussions we got to have. I don't have really hard answers this soon after the season.
We ask it every year.
Hard knocks?
TV.
Huh? Hard knocks?
You can't be on it. Draft QB this year.
I mean, since the day I arrived here, it's been something we've looked at every year. It just hasn't lined up yet. So too hard to tell right now.
In terms of long-term signing guys to longer contracts and stuff, the next two off seasons more risky because we could be heading into the lockout in a couple of years, or do you do more the immediate than the long term?
Yeah, I just don't think how that potentially that ever happening would affect signing any of our players. I mean, eventually we're playing games, so.
I was just thinking maybe in terms of it's maybe signing the shorter contracts instead of longer.
No, it's not really on my radar at all. Not at all.
Now, what, specifically with the job Anthony's done, what are you most pleased with? And then he has this, I think, there's a toughness about him. I think he wants his team to be tough. Where do you think on the scale of building that toughness where the team is right now? Is it something that maybe you think could even be advanced even further this season?
Well, I mentioned earlier, I did see advancement of our players really taking his message and then taking it on their own to kind of run that locker room. The scale of toughness, I'm pretty pleased with our mental and physical toughness. It's really more mental, especially this year. We had a lot of travel, a lot of trips, some challenges. Didn't really affect us at all. But I mean, Anthony cares about one award. That's the Super Bowl. To me, he was the coach of the year this year with what he did. I know he doesn't want to hear that, but to me, he was. Certainly the last 2 years, but I know it's a yearly award. But what he's done with this team, the vision he's brought, the toughness he brought, the unique challenges that we have of building this team and building this fan base, and I think it was tremendous. Our players really believe in him. It's easy to see. I mean, I think you guys can see that. You're at practice. You deal with him on a daily basis. They really believe in him, and he believes in the players. If you don't have that, you have nothing. And that's, we have our leader. That box is checked. I know that.
Tom, did Joey Bosa come through the season okay? Is he going to be able to avoid surgery with the foot?
Yeah. I think it's, he came through well. We knew there'd be some soreness here or there. I'm just thrilled he was back on the field helping us play again. And, yeah, there's no plans for that this offseason.
What's your assessment of how he played?
Probably a little rusty to start, but in reality, pretty darn good for a guy that missed all of training camp and that much this season. And then when he starts playing again, everybody is really, in mid-season mode at that point. He just brings a level of talent that you just can't. I mean, we had some guys step up and play very well. Isaac Rochelle, Damian Square played all 4 spots on the line. Those guys did a great job while Joey was out. Made our defensive line stronger for the rest of the year. But it's undeniable when Joey's out there, it's a lot different. And it's not just in the pass game, it's in the run game. His length, his flexibility, his quickness, his toughness. I mean, there's just not much. I mean, he's the total package there.
To follow up on Adrian Phillips, kind of what do we know now, I guess, about his arm injury, or what his timeline might be?
Well, he's planning on being at the Pro Bowl, so that's good news.
You talked about you talked about having fans all over the place. When you guys went to London this year, there was plenty of fans.
Yeah.
Obviously, next year you guys will be playing an international game, possibly in Mexico.
Right.
What do you feel about that and about you guys, about the NFL traveling outside of just the United States? State?
Well, I'll say when we go back to the East Coast and play games, I'm always amazed how many Charger fans are there. There's a lot of Charger fans in the East Coast. We see them at the hotel. We see them behind our bench area. That's really cool to see. We're in such a bubble here sometimes you forget. But there's outside of Southern California, there's a lot of Charger fans. And I can tell you from being a kid growing up on the East Coast, when the games were different, they didn't have as many games on TV. But the 4 o'clock game, usually where I grew up, was a lot of times it was the Chargers. So you say it's December in Buffalo, New York, you watching Chargers game. It's beautiful, blue skies, got the nice uniforms. I mean, Dan Fouts and Charlie Joyner. I mean, that was like wow, look at that place. And I think there's a lot of people on the East Coast that kind of grew up like that. So we have a good amount. Our fan base in the East Coast is pretty darn good. That was fun. And then the international games, the game in London was really fun. I mean, it felt like a big game. It felt like a home game with the amount of fans that were there. And I know that most of the fans there were fans of all teams, really. But there was a pretty good Charger presence there, and it felt like a big game. It felt like a playoff game. The atmosphere there, I thought that was great. And then, whether we're in London next year or Mexico City, I think they're supposed to announce that soon. I don't know when.
Have you heard anything about?
I have not, and I know we're playing somewhere outside the States, but I don't know where yet. And I think it's good. It's actually good for us to break up the schedule a little bit.
If you guys are in London again, would you petition the league in terms of the scheduling to play East again, so you could do London the following week?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that worked out well for us. It's too hard. Well, at least for us, we thought it'd be too hard to come all the way back and go back out again.
Tom, with 4 teams left and one of those being from LA, are you a Rams fan now?
I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of Sean McVay and Les Snead. They're really good guys, fun to talk football with, down to earth, and I just think it's good for pro football in Los Angeles. I really do. And they're a fun team to watch, offense and defense. So, right now I say I'm not watching those games Sunday, but I know I'll watch both games. I know it's going to happen. I won't be happy watching it, but I enjoy those two guys a lot. I think they're really good at what they do, too.
Tom, Brandon Meebank, also a free agent, but can you talk about how big is it to have his leadership around, and how much did it mean to you for him to come back, after everything?
Yeah, it was such a tough year for him. I talk about Adrian Phillips being the heart and soul of the defense. I mean, Brandon's right there. Tremendous leader. What he had to deal with this year, I've never been anything around like that before. And he was gone for a long stretch, and then when he came back, I don't know what game it was he came back, his first game back, and he played really, really well. And for what he was going through, it's not like he was able to really get a lot of workouts in. And he still played at a really high level for us this year. But beyond that, what he went through family-wise, really difficult for him. And we talk about, we all have our families at home, but your second family is your football family here. We spend a lot of time with each other. The nature of our business is very emotional. You lean on each other. So at least he had a second family to come back to lean on. I really appreciate how Dean and John and AG really, helped us kind of navigate this. It's a situation we haven't handled before. Dean flew Brandon back to Omaha when his daughter had a complication, and it was like that. He was one of those heart and soul guys and played really, really well for us this year.
Tom, how long do you think Philip might be able to play?
You have to ask Philip. I don't know. I have to almost think year to year, but I know he's got more than that. But as far as planning purposes, you're always looking at just to make sure. But I couldn't put a number on it. But this is what I've seen, though, is I haven't seen a drop-off in ability since I arrived here 6 years ago. The 6 years I've been here, he's even playing better now than he did when I first got here. So I guess the sky's the limit. But how long he wants to play, I think you'd have to ask him that. But we're lucky to have him.
And how would you assess Jalil's season and where he is right now?
Yeah, Jalil, he's the heartbeat back there. He sets a tempo for us, fully realizing, middle of the field. He's probably a little bit better, closer to the line of scrimmage. We played him there a little bit later in the year. But he sets a tempo for us. He's a physical hitter, smart, gets players lined up, and I really appreciate what he does for us and how he handles the situation. And we bring in Derwin James, and Derwin can do a lot of different things. We want to play Derwin a little bit up closer to the line of scrimmage in different ways, and it means Jaleel had to play a different position, and Jaleel will handle it really well. There's some plays he'd probably like to have back, but there were some good plays too. And yeah, you want to go to war with guys like him. And I'll go to war with him every day of the week.
In terms of Phillip, could it benefit you guys to do an extension in the next couple months for the salary cap for the upcoming year, or it wouldn't have, because I think he has a 25 million cap.
Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily have to be next couple months. You need to have the whole offseason as far as next year's cap. But we have to see how everything fits in resources-wise with the hard cap and go from there. But like I said, he's not going anywhere.
Tom, what are your thoughts on how Rayshawn played the last couple games where he got a chance to start?
He hit people. He really did. He hit people. He did a great job on special teams this year. Actually, our coverage units on teams were excellent. He was one of them. Fast, aggressive, big hitter. Enjoyed the role. And then he had some games during the middle of the year where we had different roles in the defense. But then the last couple where he actually played a lot of snaps in the middle of the field. And again, is he a true center fielder type safety? I'm not sure yet. But I know he's got a good feel for the game, and he's physical, and he hits, and he can run. So it's good to see him out there playing a little bit more role on defense. Every special teamer, if that's their main role, they all also want a big role on defense. And he has some different roles. We had a chance to play a little bit there this year. And but he is a guy I think could probably play either safety spot.
And the other guy we didn't get to see play because he got hurt preseason was Jalen, who probably could have helped you this year. Where's he at in his recovery? Is it possible that he comes back?
He's a free agent, certainly a possibility. Yeah, he was going to kind of be a little bit of a nickel corner, a little bit of a safety. We hadn't had him long enough on the field to see exactly where his role was going to be. So.
What are the next few months kind of like for a general manager? I mean, you see coaches, players kind of get away for a little bit. What is the next few months kind of like for you?
It's not a whole lot of getting away, but a lot of it's just planning with the Senior Bowl next week. We got the Senior Bowl next week, and then the Combine at the end of February, some draft meetings in February. But the month of February is just heavy planning for the off season and what our plan is for free agency and the draft and developing our own players and all that sort of stuff. So.
Do you think you about a kicker?
God, I hope so. Thank God. I think the football gods finally smiled on us. But when you have as many at bats as we did, you figure at some point you're going to hit on one. He did tremendous. He was awesome. We put together a list of kickers to bring in when Caleb was hurt. We had some guys on there. JoJo Wooden said, hey, I think we should put Michael Badgley on the list. He had a good preseason with the Colts. Kevin Kelly, one of our scouts who lives in Indy, actually, he saw him in the preseason, liked him a lot. We had seen his college reports. He was in the Senior Bowl last year. So we bring him in, had a great workout, but he just has a great mindset to him. And, yeah, he came in, did a great job. Really, really happy for him and happy for us that we have a guy that we felt great about to get up there and make kicks. And he made some big kicks for us, won some games for us. So.
When you look back on that, though, I mean, you released him. 31 other teams had an opportunity to claim him, and then you're able to get back. I mean, do you think like you didn't get him back?
Calculated. It's a calculated strategy, Eric. So you have to know the league and know what's out there, know what people need, and there's always that risk to put him on the practice squad. He has to clear through waivers first. We felt like we'd be able to do that because of his body work at that point and what else was available and who needed kickers. And so but we knew we liked him, so we wanted to keep him. And then the next week, Caleb just didn't handle it. So went back to Michael, and hopefully the rest is history.
Do you feel like learning from a guy like Adam Vinatieri, a legend, kind of helped him?
No doubt. No doubt. And it was only an off season and a training camp, but there is no doubt learning from one of the best who's ever played, especially from the neck up as far as being a kicker in this league. Yeah, there's no doubt that helped him. And that's one of the first things he said when he came in, when he signed, was that how much he learned from Adam in that short time.
Is his next step developing the leg strength for kickoffs?
Yeah, because the leg strength is there. We've seen that. And I think as he matures and works on it a little bit more, I think it will come. I really do.
Is it different drafting towards the bottom of the first round, 28? I guess that's a good thing for you guys because you're doing well, but is it a little different from the draft process?
The process stays the same, but yeah, it's a lot different. There's no way you're going to be able to really narrow down a pinpoint he's going to be there at 28. But it's a good problem to have. Come draft day, it's not going to be awesome, but it's a good problem to have. But if you have the good enough scouting staff, which we have, and you prepare the right way, which we will, that won't be an issue.
Will you be attending the Senior Bowl?
Yes. Will you? You should. It's fun. Huh? No, it's actually in Mobile this time of year can get really cold. Yeah. Hey, I didn't even see you over there. I've been so focused on Eric on this side, and okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Your relationship with John Spanos, how does that work, and is it nice having someone in ownership who has a football scouting background?
Yes, you nailed it right on the head right there. The great thing about our ownership is they're in the building every day. Certainly John and AG every day. Dean seems like almost every day. So conversations are easy, communication's easy. But having John, football background, scouting background, another sounding board to talk about things, it's a huge help. This is an industry that you need advice, you need sounding boards, you need counter arguments, and to talk things out, and to have ownership with a background in that, it's invaluable.
Who has the final say on a football decision?
The great thing here is Dean, John, AG, they give me the resources to do my job, and they empower me to do my job. Now, a lot of it is very rarely do you ever have to come in and slam your fist down and say, this is what we're doing, no matter what anybody cares about. It's a lot of discussion with Anthony. But no, I'm grateful that they give me the opportunity to do the job, and we have a great staff of people. And like I said earlier, there's so much infrastructure you have to build with your football team. Support staff, it goes pretty deep, scouting staff, and they give us all those resources. That's part of the reason why we've been able to get to where we are right now.
Is that John Carroll University?
Yes, yeah.
Two guys that kind of grew into their role this year was Damian Square and Darius Philon. Both of them, I think, are free agents after this season. Are those two guys that you kind of that you would like to bring back and help build on how they played this year?
Yes, our defensive line, the interior group, I thought did a really nice job this year. They all played a lot of snaps. They all played different roles. Ideally, you'd love to have both those guys back. I think Darius Philon, we've seen year after year after year get better and better and better, and he can affect a lot of plays with his quickness, his pass rush ability. And Damian he's the glue up front. I mean, you can play him in so many different spots, and he plays those spots well. It's not just you can put him in that spot; he can play it well. At maybe 290 pounds, he's very strong, has great leverage and great hand use. He can play some nose tackle. He can play some end when Joya was out. If you want to win and win big in this league, you need role players that can play their role at really high level. Adrian Phillips and Damian Square and a lot of other players. Mike Williams this year. Mike wasn't a starter, but big time player for us. So, going back to defensive line, those guys did a really nice job, and you need a lot of depth there, and we had that this year.
With Desmond King, do you see his future at nickel corner or outside? Where do you think he fits in?
He's playing so well in the role he has. I don't know if you want to move him, but I do think he has versatility to do a lot of different things. But the role he plays right now, he's really good at it. If the way the league is, it's more spread out. If you're going to play more defensive backs, they have to be able to tackle. They have to be able to blitz when they have to. They got to be tough, and he's built for it. Just even body-wise, he's built for it, and he has great instincts too. So, you hate to move guys who are playing at such a high level at one spot, but I do think he can do some different things.
This year, cornerback Michael Davis took over halfway as a starter. How do you feel like he progressed going into the end of the season and playing when he went from being a special teamer to being a starter?
Yeah, it was really the same progression that Trevor Williams had made. Trevor Williams made the team as a college free agent, won a role his first year, second year became a starter. This year, Michael Davis, or last year, Michael Davis won a role in the football team, made the roster this year, came in, and I know Trevor got hurt, but Michael stepped in there and played starter football for us. So he's a player that really, talk about developing players, Ron Miles and Chris Harris, and working with Michael. He really came along, and he was targeted a lot because Casey Hayward's on the other side, and I thought Michael did play pretty good football this year, and I think he'll get better with more experience. But his length, his height, and his speed, and the fact that he's an aggressive tackler, I think that showed this year.
Would you like him back next year, even though he's a free agent this year?
Michael Davis?
Oh, no, Trevor Williams.
Oh, Trevor Williams. Trevor's restricted, but sure, yeah, I'm a big fan of. He had a tough year, tough with the injury, just never really got back to where he was. But he should be good to go for next year, health-wise.
All right, thanks, Tom.
All right.